Hello again everyone, so another video for you this week. The practice I'm going to be exploring this week is centred around strength and stability. It was quite interesting after last week's video when I asked if anyone had anything specific they wanted me to explore in the videos. And quite a few of you got back to me and with various things, but they all seem to centre around this theme of strength and stability. And that ranged from being on a physical level in some form to kind of emotional and mental levels as well. And I found that really fascinating, not only because you all had kind of a similar theme, but also because it resonated quite strongly with what I was feeling as well. So the past week, I've been struggling quite a bit with this kind of feeling of being a bit useless, and feeling a bit weak, not strong at all because of that. My usual response to kind of times of, crisis or a high anxiety is to be quite proactive and be a bit like, right, what are we going to do about this, and to kind of face it head on. And that response, because of the nature of what is happening, has kind of been taken away from me to a certain extent. There's not really much I can do to help other people to a certain extent. And like I said, I've really struggled with that. So my practice over this week has been really centered around building that sense of strength in myself, and finding that sense of support that can be offered to me. One way I've been doing that is to work a lot with standing poses, which we're going to explore tonight, and particularly working with the feet, which are our kind of literal foundations really, or physical foundations in the body. So we're going to be exploring some of that, literally getting us back up on our feet. And we're also going to explore a mudra called Shiva Linga Mudra, which is really useful for kind of feelings of, being a bit helpless, depressed, anxious, those sorts of things as well, which I found quite useful. So yeah, I'm going to explore a bit of that. So hopefully you found that useful. We're going to use a few bits of equipment tonight. So I know a lot of you have these balls already at home. So if you've got one, you can use it. If not, don't worry about it. We can do what we're going to do without one of these balls. But we're going to use it semi-inflated as we normally do. And the second thing we're going to use is a yoga bolster. Now I'm aware a lot of us don't have yoga bolsters at home. But this is a really good way of making your own at home. I stole this from another teacher, Donna Fari, and it's really cool actually. So as you can see, I've got a pillow which is quite firm. If your pillows are quite soft, maybe use a couple. I've got a blanket laid out on the floor, and all I'm going to do is wrap or roll my pillow with my blanket. And as you can see, it makes this quite compact little bolster, which is really, really good. We're going to use that for today's practice a few times. So if you want to pause the video now, maybe grab yourself those bits, get your bolster made. Because we're going to you may want to use the bolster for the first thing we're going to do tonight. So we're going to come to a comfortable seated position. So I'm going to use my bolster to sit on. If you prefer to sit on the floor, that's absolutely fine. If you'd rather sit on a chair, again, that's absolutely fine. But getting yourself comfortably set up, having a bit of support underneath you can be quite useful to keep that lift in the spine. So once you're set up there, I'm going to ask you to place your hands or rest your hands on your knees for a few moments and allow everything to settle, find its place. And becoming aware of your breath. And you may even want to let a few exhalations out through the mouth, sigh a little bit, yawn a little bit, whatever it takes to invite and encourage the body and the breath to find its rhythm, to settle. And you can work with the eyes open or you can work with the eyes closed, it's entirely up to you. So the first thing we're going to do is work with the Who breath, which is really similar to straw breathing, which we do sometimes in class. So how we make the who breath is we take an inhalation through the nose, and as we exhale, we allow the exhalation to come out through the mouth, but we're going to make sort of round the mouth as if we're blowing through a straw. And we're going to make a who sound as we allow the breath to come out through the mouth. It's like almost like if you're listening to the sea in a shell, that kind of sound that we're trying to make. So we inhale. And we exhale through the mouth, making that who sound. So we're going to do that about 10 times, roughly 10 times. You can count on your fingers, or you can kind of just gauge it, you know, you don't need to be precise about it. So when you're ready, you're going to take an inhalation through the nose. And we're going to allow the exhalation to come out through the mouth, through round the lips. Making our who sound as we exhale. So let's go, yeah, like I said, around 10 times at your own pace. So when you've completed your 10 or there or thereabouts, and to let go of that and allow the breath to come back in and out as it would normally. So you might notice that the exhalations began to get a bit longer, and as a result of that your inhalations would get a bit deeper, but don't worry if you didn't experience any of that. We're going to keep going with the who breath. We're going to do another 10, but this time we're going to add in Shiva Linga Mudra as well. So Shiva Linga Mudra, so with the left hand, we're going to bring the fingers so they're close together. So it's quite a contained shape in the hand. And we're going to make this little bowl type shape as well with the hand. And with the right hand, we're going to make a loose fist with a thumbs up. And we're going to hold the hands around the level just above the navel, so around probably the solar plexus area, or even the navel, yeah, navel or just above around the solar plexus. And we're going to work with the elbows slightly winged forwards. So to begin with, we're simply going to explore how the breath moves while we're in this position. So you might notice as you inhale that the elbows move a bit further forwards, and as you exhale, they might rest back a little. As you inhale, they might move forwards a little, and as you exhale, they might rest back a little. So it almost creates this kind of pestle and mortar type feeling with the hands. And I like to imagine that anything that's troubling or bothering me, like little pebbles or seeds, yeah, in my rounded hand, in my bowl hand. And as I inhale and exhale, it's almost like the hands are grinding down these anxieties into a paste or a powder. So we're going to add this with the who breath again now. So again, about 10 times. So as we inhale through the nose, you might feel the elbows moving forwards, and as we exhale, making our who sound through the mouth, you might feel the elbows resting back. So again, keep going with that at your own pace. So you keep going with that. I'm just going to talk you through how I like to complete my cycles of the Who breath with this mudra. So when you want to finish, when you're coming to your last exhalation through the mouth, what you can do, the left hand, the bowl hand, with all your kind of anxiety dust in there now after it's been ground up, you can bring it up towards your mouth, and you're going to let the exhalation come out through the mouth as if you're blowing that powder, that dust away. And then when you've done that, bringing the hands back to rest on the knees. And that can be with the palms up or the palms down, whatever's comfortable. So if you've completed there, you're going to continue. If you want to keep going, you can pause the video at any point and keep going with that practice. So we're going to move our bolster to one side then out. A little bit of a drink. So we're going to come to lay on our front. And we're going to use our ball here if you have one. If you haven't, it really doesn't matter. We can do this without. So the ball's going to be placed under the hip, and we're going to come to circle from the hip. So a lot of us are quite familiar with this now. So either with the forehead on the floor or turning the head to one side, we're going to bend the knee with the ball that's underneath the hip, and then begin to circle the leg. So like I said, if you haven't got your ball, don't worry, you can do this without the ball. You're still going to get the benefit. And remembering to really consciously slow down in any parts of that circuit that might not feel as fluid as they possibly can be. And changing the direction. So this is moving right into our hip, touching the lower back on that side. It's a really good practice this if there's any issues with the lower back. That's also a nice way to further release the breath. So eventually letting that go, taking the ball out if you're working with one, and letting the leg come back down into contact with the floor. Feel the difference in the two sides. So we're going to come to do the other side, so I'm going to flip around so I can still face you. So again, placing the ball underneath the hip that you're going to be working with if you've got a ball, bending at the knee, and then again circling from the hip. Finding those parts of the movement that might not be as fluid as they can, and really bringing the awareness into the hip joints, getting a sense of that movement. We can all kind of just sort of spin the leg around, but there's a different quality if we can really trace with our awareness that movement coming right from the hip and the other parts of the body that has an effect on. And then change in the direction. Eventually letting go on that second side, taking the ball out if you're using one, and letting the legs rest back down onto the floor. So let's bring ourselves up from there. Let's take this into a wide leg child pose. So keeping the feet together, we're going to separate the knees and we're going to come to lengthen along the mat, keeping the hands active. If the head allows it, allowing the forehead to come down towards the floor and finding the support of the breath here. And then walking the hands back towards the knees, coming back up from there. So I said we we're going to do a bit of work around the feet tonight to wake them up, especially as we've probably been doing less walking than what we normally would do. Again, a really good practice to work in the feet. So what we're going to do first of all, we're going to come onto the balls of the feet. So my heels are lifted, they're quite high up off the floor, and my knees are lifted. So I'm in this crouch position. I'm going to bring the hands forwards in front of me. So the first part of the movement, I'm simply going to let the knees rock back and forth. So we're rolling onto different parts of the feet as we do that. And then we might want to add in where we separate the knees and we come forwards. And maybe doing a bit of both. Might even be able to bring the knees right towards the floor and maybe sit back on the heels for a few breaths. If that feels too much, come back onto the hands. You can come to that more forward, rocking back and forth movement. And let's come back up from there. Let's bring the knees wide again. And I'm going to make a little side to side movement. So this really helps to strengthen the ankles as well as the feet. And that in turn helps to support all the joints above the ankles also. So knees, if there's any issues there, or any issues in the hips, it's always good to help strengthen the feet and ankles. And then we might add in this movement where I'm still high up on my heels. So I'm going to come up to standing, allow the heels to come down, and then coming back down, back up onto the balls of the feet. So I'm pouring the weight down into my feet to come up. And then coming up on the heels, bending the knees to come down. Let's go a few more times with that. And of course, the slower you can make that movement, the more musical it becomes. Let's go one more. Good, well done. And then let's come to release the feet and do whatever you need to do. So it might be coming up to standing, it might be giving the legs a shake out front. So you do whatever you need to do to give the feet a little bit of a rest there. So the next movement we're going to come to is again working in the feet, strengthening the whole of the legs. So we're going to tuck the toes under. We'll go with the left side first. So tuck the toes under on the left foot. And my knee is going to come down onto the floor And then my right leg, right foot, is going to come so that the heel is roughly in line with the left knee. I like to really wake my feet up here, so lifting the toes is really useful because that helps to activate the inner arch. So I'll probably be working a lot with my toes lifted tonight, so if you want to do that, feel free. So the foot's still down on this front foot, toes are lifted, toes are tucked under on the back leg. The front of my body is going to remain in contact with this right thigh. And the hands, I'm going to bring either side of my body, but I'm not going to bring any weight into my hands. It's going to be my feet and my legs that are going to support me. So sometimes I work without bringing the hands there. So if you feel secure enough to do that, you can do that. But if you prefer to have the hands there as a bit of extra support, feel free. So what we're going to do from here, we're going to pour the weight into the feet, pour in the weight into the feet. And I'm going to come up and begin to straighten the legs from there. But I'm keeping that contact between the front of my body and this right thigh. And this front leg mightn't completely straighten. You can see mine's still got a bit of a bend in it. That's absolutely fine. It's more about keeping that engagement in the feet. If I just completely straighten the leg, I've lost my feet there. So I'm going to keep that engagement. And then I'm going to come back to where I started. So we're going to repeat that another couple of times. So when you're ready. Keep the weight pouring into the feet. If it helps, lift the toes to keep the feet active. Ooh. Let's go one more on this side. Ooh, and then release. Do what you need to do to give the feet and the ankles a bit of a rest, and then we'll come to the opposite side. So tuck in the right toes under. I'm going to bring that knee down briefly. I'm going to bring the left heel in line with that knee. Again, I'm going to pick the toes up on my left foot to really engage the inner arch of the foot, so you can see that there. And then using the hands to support me if I want to, or not using the hands at all. But the weight is definitely going down into the legs and feet, keeping that contact with the front of my body and the left thigh. I'm going to come up from there. And then coming back down. So imagining the weight pouring into the feet. If we were made of sand, all the sand would be trickling down to the feet. And that's what's going to bring us up. And then release. Do what you need to do to give the legs, the ankles, the feet a bit of a rest. And then we're going to take that up into a downward dog. So again, tucking the toes under. We're going to bring the hands forward to the shoulders. Finding that, that contact between the palms of the hands and the floor. That engagement between the wrist, the elbow, up into the shoulder blade. And let's come up into our downward dog from there. So you can add in any variations. You might want to take your dog for a walk. You might want to let your dog wag his tail. I've been enjoying this movement. I don't think I've given it a name yet, but I quite enjoy that feeling right down through my spine. And then coming down from there. So let's take this up to standing. So we're going to do a little bit of work in Utkatasana, in lightning bolt pose. So I'll show you this from the side actually. So I'm going to bring my feet around hip distance apart. And again, I'm going to work with my toes lifted, so I've got that real engagement of the inner arch of the foot. I'm going to reach my arms up towards the ceiling, and then I'm going to begin to sit back as if I was sitting back on an imaginary chair behind me, and check in with the knees. So I want to make sure that my knees are tracking towards the second and third toes so that they're not falling in towards each other. Now if you want, you can imagine you've got the tree branches, so they're keeping that length from the crown of the head right down through to the tail. Ooh, and then coming up from there. Let's go 2 more times with that. So let's reach the arms up. Let's take a hold of that tree branch. So we're going to keep that length. We're going to keep that length. Can you come onto the balls of the feet? Keep that length. I'm going to let the heels lower. And then I'm going to begin to sit back on my chair, but I really want to try and keep hold of that branch at the same time. Ooh. Finding the support of the breath. And then coming up from there. Let's go 1 more time. Bringing the arms over the head, coming up onto the balls of the feet if you wish. Keeping that reach. We're going to let the heels rest down. As we sit back into our chairs, you might want to work with the toes lifted still. Again, finding the support of the breath. Ooh, and then release the arms. And come back up from there. So we're going to add that into a little bit of a standing sequence now. So if we come towards one end of our mat, so we're going to find our lightning bolt pose, our Utkatasana again. So we're going to reach up, come on to balls of feet if you want to. Keep that length, just let the heels rest down. And sitting back into our imaginary chair. I'm going to draw the arms in towards me. I'm going to bend the knees even more. And then I'm going to step wide on my mat. I'm going to lengthen into my legs to bring me up from there. I'm going to bend the knees again. I'm going to draw the arms in. And then I'm going to turn on this front foot as I lean into the back foot so I can step back to the opposite end of my mat, and then again coming into my lightning bolt pose. Drawing the arms in, stepping wide, lengthening into the legs to come up. You might even want to bring the arms up over the head. Drawing the arms in. I'm going to turn that front foot as we lean into the back foot so we can step back to where we started. Again, coming into our lightning bolt pose. Drawing in, stepping wide, lengthening into the legs, fingers up, bringing the arms over the head if you wish. Drawing back in, bending the knees. So we turn on that front foot to step back to the front of our mat. Coming into our Utkatasana again. Let's draw in, let's step wide again. And we're going to pause here. So we're going to come, drawing the arms over the head, bringing the arms back down to the sides of the body. So we're going to add in some standing poses now. So we're going to turn in with the left toes and out with the right toes. And we're going to bend the right knee. So as you bend the right knee, remembering to stay connected to this back leg. And we all know, tracking towards the second and third toes with that front knee, keeping that connection to the back leg. And we're going to bring this into side angle pose, Parsvakonasana. So we're going to bring the forearm down onto the thigh. We're going to reach up with this top arm, and over in line with the back leg. Again, if you want to work with the toes lifted to really activate the feet, feel free to do that. Highly recommend it. Finding the support of the breath. Releasing the top arm. A little bit of weight into the front foot to bring us back to parallel the feet. And then opposite sides, turning in with the right and out with the left. Bending the left knee without disturbing this back leg too much, so keeping that contact. And then again, bringing the forearm down onto the thigh, reaching up with this top arm and over in line with the back leg. Again, finding the support of the breath. Releasing the top arm. A little bit of weight into the front foot, bringing us back to parallel the feet. Let's draw in, let the knees bend generously. Let's turn on this front foot to step back to the end of our mat that we started on. And take a few breaths there. Let's come back into our lightning bolt pose. Let's draw in, let's step wide, lengthening into the legs, drawing the arms up over the head, and bringing the arms back down. Let's come to Trikonasana, triangle pose. So let's turn the left toes in and the right toes out. Going to turn towards the right leg, so the right leg straight without locking into the knee. And then we're going to bring the right hand either somewhere between the knee and the ankle. And then we're going to take our spare hand underneath the right ribs, tracing across the front of the chest and reaching that arm up towards the ceiling, keeping that connection to the legs and the feet, working with the toes lifted if that helps. Again, finding the support of the breath here. Releasing the top arm. A little bit of weight into that front foot to bring us back to parallel the feet. And then opposite sides, so turning in with the right, out with the left. Turning to look towards the left leg. And then we're going to bring the hand again somewhere between the ankle and the knee. Spare hand underneath the ribs. We're going to trace across the front of the chest. And we're going to open out into our triangle pose. Again, watching that we're not locking into that front knee. Few breaths there. Again, if you want to work with the toes lifted, so we're really working the arches of the feet. Releasing the top arm. A little bit of weight into the front foot to bring us back to parallel the feet. And then let's draw back in. Bending the knees generously. We're going to turn on this foot to step towards the second end of our mat. Coming into our Utkatasana. Few breaths there, drawing in, bend the knees, coming to step wide again. And then we're going to take this into Warrior Two pose. Let's turn in the left. Turn out the right. We're going to bend the right knee without losing that connection into the back leg. And then we're going to bring the arms around shoulder height. Turning the gaze to look out and beyond the right hand. Finding the support of the breath. And you can add in some extras here so we can work, bow draw the arms up and draw the arms down if you want to. You can add in a bit of Hu breath if you wish. But remembering here, we're working to build strength and stability, so we're not working to the point of exhaustion. So there needs to be a quality of rest within these standing poses as much as we can. Releasing the arms, a little bit of weight into the front foot to bring us back to parallel the feet. Opposite sides, turning in with the right, out with the left, bend in the left knee without trying to disturb this back leg too much so we're not taking all the weight forwards. And then bringing the arms up around shoulder height, turning the gaze to look out and beyond the left hand. Again, adding in any extras if you want to, finding the support of the breath. Let's release the arms, a little bit of weight into the front foot to bring us back to parallel the feet. Let's draw in, let's turn on this foot to come back to the second end of our mat. Let's bring it back into our Utkatasana, lightning bolt pose. Let's draw in, let's step wide, opening out from there, drawing back in, pivoting on this front foot again, leaning into the back foot. We're going to step back to where we started, coming back to our lightning bolt pose, and then coming up from there. So you can add in a few extra repetitions where you go forwards and back with the lightning bolt pose there if you want to, or you can call it a day there, whatever feels good for you. And then from here, let's take this into a nice supportive forward bend. So bringing the feet around hip distance or slightly wider. Let's bend the knees generously. And let's work tonight with the forearms resting on the thighs, lengthening out through the tail, through to the crown of the head, being nice and active with the feet. So again, you might want to lift the toes again. A few breaths here. And then what we can do from here, if you want to, keeping this set up in the legs, we can draw the arms up over the head and we're back in our lightning bolt pose. A few breaths there. So you can feel how incredibly hard the feet, the legs have to work. It's a really good strengthening pose. And then coming up to standing from there. So we've got a couple more things we're going to do before we come to rest down in Shavasana. So for this next one, we're going to use our bolster that we made. So you might want to plump it up a little bit. I'm going to place the bolster widthways on the mat. So I'm going to come to sit back, but you can see I'm bringing my bottom right towards the front edge of the bolster, yeah, so I'm not sitting on the bolster, my bottom comes right towards the front edge of the bolster, and then I'm going to come to lay back over the bolster. So my feet are on the floor, my knees are bent, I can let the arms come to rest at the sides of the body, or drape the arms over the top of the head for a few breaths. So this is a bit like the supported bridge that we often do in class with blocks. It's really nice with a bolster actually. I'm just going to spend a few breaths here, and then we're going to add in some extras this evening as well, or this morning, whatever time you're doing your practice. I'm so used to teaching of an evening, I always say this evening. So a few breaths here. So again, even though it's quite a supportive pose, it's a great one for strengthening the breath. So let's draw our left leg in towards us. We'll work with this, we're going to work with the right leg first. So we'll draw the left in towards us. So we're either taking a hold around the front of the shin or around the back of the thigh, whatever works for you. And then this right leg, I'm going to lengthen out along the floor, and I'm really going to reach into the heel of that right leg. So I'm reaching right into the deep psoas here, into the diaphragm, front of the hip flexor. Again, a few breaths here. And then keeping with this right foot, this time we're going to draw it in towards us. We're going to reach it up towards the ceiling, and then we're going to begin to lengthen it back down towards the floor. Now, if any of this doesn't feel particularly nice in the back for whatever reason with the bolster, you can still make this movement with the pelvis on the floor. And we're going to repeat this about 5 times in total. So yeah, if it's not feeling good in the back for any reason, take the bolster away, bring the pelvis down onto the floor. You can still make the same movement. Keeping the foot nice and active as we do that as well, even reaching slightly more into the heel. And as the foot lengthens down, there's this kind of active resistance with the left leg, so we're drawing that back towards us. Not to the point where we're kind of, hurting ourselves, but there is a bit of resistance that we're creating there. So once you've completed your 5, the right foot we're going to place onto the floor first, bend that knee, and then the left comes down to join it. And then we're going to come to do the opposite side, so drawing the right knee in towards you, again placing the hands either around the front of the shin or the back of the thigh. So the first part of the movement, if you remember, we lengthen out the left leg away from us along the floor, reaching out into the heel. So again, speaking to the deep psoas, the hip flexor on that left side, the diaphragm. And then when you're ready, we're going to add in the second part of the movement. So we're going to draw the left foot in towards us, left knee in towards us, reaching up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to lengthen that leg away, keeping that resistance with the right leg. So not everything's toppling that way, basically. And again, about 5 times. And again, once you've completed, you're going to place the left foot, the sole of the left foot onto the floor, and then the right comes down to join it. Take the bolster out if you work with the bolster from underneath the pelvis, and come to let the legs lengthen out along the floor. And notice what you notice, take on board any changes, notice any changes in the breath. So there's one last thing we're going to do before we come to rest down. So we're going to use this bolster again. So again, you might want to plump it up a little. So this time I've got my bolster lengthways on my mat. And I've just tucked the edges in just so you can see a bit clearer. I'm grabbing a couple of extra pillows here because my bolsters that I've made is not particularly long. So I need a bit more length for my head. If you've got a yoga bolster, yeah, they're often a bit longer, so you probably won't need the extra cushions here. But nothing wrong with a bit of cushioning. So I've got some cushions just in case I need them. So I'm going to put 2 here for now. I'm going to have this to the side just in case. So I'm going to come into my wide leg child pose again. So my toes are together, my knees are wide, and I'm bringing my bolster into the centre of my legs here. So I'm going to come to rest forward over the bolster. Now, as I come forwards, I really want to make sure that I've got contact between myself and the bolster. So if your bolster's not plump enough, place another cushion there if need be, or you can place a folded blanket, but just really making sure you've got that support of the bolster. So I'm actually going to keep that there because that feels quite nice underneath my belly. So you can see I need these extra cushions because these are going to be for my head. So you can see with this slight raise of myself, my head doesn't quite reach my cushions. So I'm just going to do a little bit of jigging about, give myself a bit more height. So that works quite well for me. So you might want to play about a little bit, make sure you're comfortable. We're going to spend about 4 or 5 minutes here resting against this support under the belly, in the front of the chest. If you've got your head turned to one side, you might want to turn the way your head's looking part way through, just to make sure that the neck's getting an even amount on both sides. Like I said, I'm going to leave us here for about 4 or 5 minutes. So once you're set up there, really allowing yourself to rest into the support of the bolster. So it's quite nice in this position. It's really useful to help connect with the breath, because we can often feel the breath or the belly moving against the bolster and away from the bolster as we inhale and exhale. And there's also something quite soothing about lying on the front generally. And it puts us kind of in a situation where we are able to receive a bit more. So it's a nice way to gather strength and gather support. So really enjoying these few moments here. Maybe turning the head the opposite way. You're working with your head turned to one side. nice and gently, if you want to, bringing yourself back up from there. If you would like to stay there for a bit longer, that's absolutely fine. Feel free to do that. We're going to come to Shavasana. So this could also be your Shavasana position, if you would like to do that. So if you want to, you just let yourself stay there. If not, you're going to come to get yourself set up in your Shavasana as you would like to. So for loads of you, you're really familiar with what works for you now. I'm going to show you something you can do with your bolster as well. So it can be quite nice to work with your bolster underneath your knees and come into lay back from there. And again, bringing the arms and the hands wherever's comfortable for you. And make sure you're going to be warm enough. Put any extra layers on. Make yourself nice and comfortable. So I'm going to continue reading the Yoga Sutras. A lot of you contacted me this week and said how much you enjoyed that. So I'm going to continue with the next section. So once you're set up in your Shavasana, making yourself as comfortable as you can possibly be. And maybe letting out some exhalations through the mouth. Giving yourself a bit of a sigh. Maybe even stretching the mouth, inducing a yawn, releasing the jaw. And after that supported child pose, it can be quite nice. It might feel like you can settle a bit easier. And if you're still in your child pose, that's absolutely fine. You keep yourself there. And really letting yourself rest down here. The practice of yoga is the commitment to become established in the state of freedom. The practice of yoga will be firmly rooted when it is maintained consistently and with dedication over a long period. Freedom is that triumphant state of consciousness that is beyond the influence of desire. The mind ceases to thirst for anything it has seen or heard of, even what is promised in the scriptures. And supreme freedom is that complete liberation from the world of change that comes of knowing the unbounded self. I'll read that again for you. The practice of yoga is the commitment to become established in the state of freedom. The practice of yoga will be firmly rooted when it is maintained consistently and with dedication over a long period. Freedom is that triumphant state of consciousness that is beyond the influence of desire. The mind ceases to thirst for anything it has seen or heard of, even what is promised in the scriptures. And supreme freedom is that complete liberation from the world of change that comes of knowing the unbounded self. So beginning to gently move here, fingers and toes wriggle, head moving from side to side, nice and gently. You would like to rubbing the palms of the hands together, generating some heat in the hands, using that to place over the eyes, or placing the heat elsewhere that might be useful for you this evening. Eventually allowing the eyes to fully open where you are, and taking in any sights, noting any sounds, any sensations. Allow yourself to come back to your senses. Eventually gathering the knees in towards the chest, having a little rock from side to side. And bringing yourself all the way over onto one side, spending a few moments there. And then eventually, when you're ready, bringing yourself back up to a comfortable seated position from there. And to close, let's bring the hands into prayer mudra in the front of the chest, giving everything a chance to find its place again. It might be a new place, everything settle. And we will leave that there. So thank you very much for watching another video with me. Like I said, it's been really great doing these videos for you. I hope they're useful. Again, always let me know if there's any questions you have, or if there's any particular themes you would like me to look at in our practices, or if you just want to contact me and say hello, please feel free to do that. So I hope you're all well, still missing you lots, and look forward to seeing you soon. Take care, bye.